So I don't know. I just don't see that being I don't see that move working for the Democrats, but
I mean,
maybe you do.
what move works?
I think when the Democrats win, they present, I'm thinking of like Clinton, I'm thinking of Obama.
Well, don't think about don't think about any of those people, because that media environment doesn't matter anymore. We're in a totally new world right now. So everything prior to 2016 is totally out the window. 2016 to 2020 started to change things quite a bit, and now we live in a whole new world.
I mean, I think that's true in terms of like the methods, but in terms of the vision, what I mean is that you need to show a vision of somebody wants to make the country better, has a clear common sense plan for doing it. And neither
of those things have mattered to voters for a while. They clearly didn't matter last election.
I think last election, the problem is that nobody believed her.
That's a lie. No. To be clear, that's a total lie, right? It's people are more concerned right now with culture war stuff than anything having to do with any part of like how the system is supposed to work, what the laws are, and how the economy is supposed to work. Mm-hmm. That's just like you included. None of you guys care about any of the actual like governance stuff, because if we start to go issue by issue, it's all just going to come down to like wokeism and whatever that means. So the idea
and we can if you want, but I think that's totally false. I think the biggest issue she had.
I'm curious. Okay, wait. Let's try this real quick. So, who do you think was better on freedom of speech?
I think she's like a non-entity. I don't really know. Between the Biden administration and the Trump administration, I think they've both been pretty terrible.
Okay, can you give me one example that you feel like Biden did that was the equivalent to Donald Trump suing CNN because he didn't like the Kamala Harris interview, and suing Seltzer, the pollster in Iowa?
No, they're not going to be equivalent. But
no. I need something of a similar magnitude to that.
What Donald Trump does that's very bad.
No, wait. I don't care what you're going to say right now. I want something that Biden did that's a similar magnitude to what Trump is doing right now with those two lawsuits.
Is attempt to create a Homeland Security department that would administer speech on the internet, which was eventually rejected, was a very bad idea. His use of Title IX.
Wait. So for the first thing, you just gave something he didn't do. So he wasn't able to do that. So he didn't do that. So who cares? I want to be able to fly, and I want to be able to breathe in outer space and go Super Saiyan.
Well, Donald Trump's going to lose the lawsuit against Spelcer. I forgot to say that. It's a clear loser.
It doesn't matter if he's going to lose the lawsuit. He still is doing the lawsuit. So these are things that Donald Trump is doing. You gave me Biden desires that are mediated by the environment. So.
And then the other example was Title IX. But
what's the Title IX example?
When the way that they use Title IX to chill discussion of gender issues out on the campuses, because basically when you work gender identity into Title IX, then it becomes a protected class in Title IX.
How are they chilling discussions on gender issues?
The concern was that when they update Title IX such that gender identity becomes a protected classification, then harassment using wrong pronouns, that sort of thing, becomes a Title IX issue, which then makes it very hard for students who disagree to have conversations on campus about those topics.
Okay, so I just want to be super clear, just because this is a ridiculous comparison. You think that making it so that Title IX would have made it against the rules on college campuses to harass people on the basis of being trans. You think that that's a similar attack on free speech as the president of the United States suing people in media for doing things he doesn't like?
No, I don't think it's equivalent. This is what I was trying to say at the beginning. I think that
wait. If it's not, wait, hold on, stop. You guys keep doing this. Eject all that. I don't care. I'm looking for something equivalent, or I'm looking for you to say, okay, Donald Trump is worse on this. I don't know why it's so many word games. Like, what did the Biden admin do in 4 years that is as bad as our freedom of speech as what Trump is doing?
This ridiculous demand is exactly the kind of thing that drives me crazy about the modern left. Because what you're going to point out is a million areas where Donald Trump acts like a petulant child, takes actions that are
Stop. Hold on. I'm not going to. This is just. Please stop doing this. Wait, no. Donald Trump is not a petulant child. He is the president of the United States of America, who is engaged right now in like the destruction of our constitutional order. I don't know why you guys mince words so much. Well, he's putting us in an awkward situation. He's a petulant child. No. He's a fully grown adult male. He's the president of the United States of America. Yes. Okay.
So we agree he's doing things that are bad for freedom of speech. Like, I don't know what the problem there is. Like,
because I'm just, because I said, if you go issue by issue, it's obvious that people like you or you guys don't care about the issues. And then you said, well, you can go by issue by issue. And now I want to. Let's go issue by issue. So on the First Amendment,
what do you mean by people like me, first of all?
because you guys will act like you're talking about like how governance is or how the country is ran or these constitutional issues. But at the end of the day, it always just goes back to wokeism. Even the one example you just gave me on the First Amendment had to do with trans people in Title IX. What?
We spoke for like an hour and a half. Do you think I voted for him? Is that where you're coming from?
No, I just don't understand all the false, the equivocation and the false equivalencies. I just don't understand. Like, he's a petulant child. Why the equivocation? He's not a petulant child. He's a dictator. He wants to act like a dictator and he's attacking our freedoms. Or the false equivalency. Him suing people in media is the same as Title IX protections making it so that you can't engage in harassment of people on the basis of their gender identity in colleges? Really?
We can't even discuss it. But the issue that I'm getting at, Destiny, is that when the left oversteps, they do it by creating bureaucracy, by creating structure, by creating regulations. When the right oversteps, and at least when I'm talking about Donald Trump, they do it through what you would describe as like authoritarian, I'm taking this action. I would call it like being a petulant child, like I'm mad at AP, so I'm going to kick him out of the room.
Okay,
like,
in the past, okay, I'm curious. In the past,
those are very different approaches.
In the past, I understand. In the past decade, what are the big oversteps that you're talking about?
In terms of...
Here are some big oversteps that I can think of for government expansion of powers and stuff. The Patriot Act. Those are Republicans, right? Iraq and Afghanistan war, where I don't know if you would call these oversteps or whatever, but these are trillions of dollars of wars, started by Republicans. What are these other huge bureaucratic oversteps or these huge oversteps that are infringing on our freedoms or illegal or whatever? What are we thinking of in the past decade or two?
I think this is actually a very interesting topic, but I think that in my political life, which started about like 2000, both parties have continuously expanded the scope of the president's power. So it's stretched beyond what I think is anything resembling appropriate. Both parties have consistently wanted to do that. And
okay, hold on. Okay, I'm going to ask a specific question. Sure, what is as bad as the Patriot Act that the Democrats have done?
As bad, drone strikes under Obama was pretty bad. FISA courts under Obama were pretty
drone
bad.
Strikes? Do you think the United States shouldn't engage in drone strikes?
No, I think that when you have an issue with, for example, like U.S. citizens are going to get hit, or if there are due process issues that are being decided behind closed doors, that's pretty bad.
Okay, wait. Let's look at that in particular then. I'm interested. So, if we look at how Obama approached that situation, Obama went to the Office of Legal Counsel. He got an opinion on whether or not he had the authority to do this particular thing. The Office of Legal Counsel says it seems you do have the authority to do this particular thing. Obama did do this drone strike of a U.S. citizen in another country who is accused of working, I think, with a terrorist organization. He carried out the strike. This has not been deemed unconstitutional or illegal by any criminal court, by the Supreme Court. What's our issue with that particular action, and how does that compare to? I don't know if you want to go the last 6 weeks of Trump, or we can look at like the Eric Adams thing. I would compare it to that easily.
Yeah, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to show up and like defend everything Trump does. So like the Eric Adams thing struck me as super problematic.
What? Listen to what you just said. Wait, super problematic. You sound like a leftist, right? Super problematic.
Yes.
It was an egregious destruction of the rule of law. It was a quid pro quo offered by our Department of Justice that resulted in the firing or resignation of like 10 different attorneys.
You want to pick my adjectives for me? Is that the extent of our disagreement?
I think the adjectives are fairly important, right?
Like we agree it's a bad thing, and you just want me to use like stronger language, I guess.
Well, the magnitude is important, right? Because we're talking about what are the worst things that have been done. So I think magnitude, I think it does matter here for sure.
So the point that I was getting at is that what we have now, I think, is a legitimate constitutional inflection point, which is the right wants to have a very powerful president who has total control or almost total control over his agencies. The left also wants to have a very powerful executive branch. They just don't want the president to have that level of control over the agencies. They want the bureaucratic process.
Can you give me an example of how the left does this?
You can't pendulum swing between those two.
Hold on, okay, you're a smart guy. You know a lot of stuff. Yeah. I don't need the vague general statements. What is an example? What do you mean by the left is trying to expand the executive power of the president? What do you mean by that? Give me examples. What are we talking about?
But what has happened consistently over, like, I guess we're talking about like since 2000.
No. Just
But
invite it. Give me like example. I don't because I don't want vague things. Just example. Because I can think of one example, for instance, of a massive constraining of power under the executive, which was Loper, right? That was a big